Now to a Republican, Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. He's a member of the Foreign Relations Committee and the chairman of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. Senator, it's nice to have you here. Thank you.
Hello, Shepard. How are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. The president took this decision after seeing the pictures of the babies slaughtered. Senator, from your place on the Appropriations Committee and as a citizen who pays attention, you know that this slaughter has been going on for 7 years. The actions of this brutal dictator did not change. Our actions changed. Was it warranted? And if so, what is warranted going forward?
Well, I definitely think this was an appropriate response. It's really what President Obama should have done after the first documented case of use of chemical weapons against the Syrian people. Should have been swift, should have been decisive, and it might have made a difference. But President Obama dithered. He didn't act decisively. By the time he even came to Congress to ask for an authorization, it was the moment it actually passed. President Trump did not allow that moment to pass, so I completely support his very measured, very proportionate response to this atrocity.
Should the Syrian dictator strike again on his own people with chemical weapons? Should the president take out his Air Force?
We should respond again in kind, again proportionate, with whatever measures that the administration would deem appropriate. But I think it would be a stepped-up response.
He's been using barrel bombs for the better part of the last 5 years, as far as I can tell. Very crude bombs that are tossed either from helicopters or from fixed-wing planes. Those kill everyone in the vicinity, men, women, and children, in the same way that these do. If we respond to this sarin gas attack, should we also respond to more conventional weapon attacks?
I believe we should have been. I think it's really a tragedy that the civilized world, has just sat back and allowed this slaughter, this genocide to continue without a response. But again, that was President Obama's choice not to respond, not to really come to Congress with a robust authorization, something that actually not tie the hands of a future president. That's the reason why President Obama could not get an authorization for use of military forces. He was asking for one that was too weak. He never made the case to the American public of why the events in Syria was in America's national interest. Of course, we've seen the migrant flow, the hundreds of thousands of people flow into Europe, potentially destabilizing those countries, putting at risk America through potentially the visa waiver program. So, it's about time we are acting. It's in response to illegal war crime types of actions. So, I guess we'll take whatever measures we should in reaction to that type of provocation.
What should the limit of our response be in the Syrian civil war?
Well, from my standpoint, if we're going to get embroiled more in the Syrian civil war, that is something that President Trump should come to the American people in Congress to look for an authorization. By precedent, I do not believe he needs further authorization in terms of defeating ISIS, which is also now in Syria. So we're really talking about two different situations here. This response was a currently one-time response, hopefully to deter future use of chemical weapons. If we're going to really address the Syrian situation, I think our first step is to defeat ISIS. But now we have to ask questions: what ground forces are going to defeat ISIS in Raqqa? Who's going to hold that ground? But once that occurs, once that ground is held, that changes the equation. It might make a diplomatic solution possible.
Back to Assad. Should he be replaced? Should there be regime change?
I do not see how a dictator, a leader of a country who has slaughtered 500,000 of citizens, is going to last long term. But, the very sad fact is, because of our lack of involvement, because of our weakness, we created a vacuum. Iran, Russia, Hezbollah has filled that vacuum. And let's face it, they won the battle for Aleppo. They have solidified their position in western Syria. That's one of the reasons I say we have got to defeat ISIS, deny them that territory, that caliphate. That will change the facts on the ground. It might allow for some kind of diplomatic solution.
Iran, Russia, and Hezbollah, as you said, are all backing the Syrians. Should the United States engage in that fight? You've said here that we should respond in kind if there is barrel bombing and the like. Should the United States pit itself against those three powers at the same time? And if so, do you have concerns about it spreading?
Well, again, the use of chemical weapons is outlawed internationally. And that allows a certain response. And quite honestly,
barrel bombing is as well, as you know, sir.
I understand, but and again, I have no idea why the world didn't respond, but we're responding now, and it's impossible for Russia and Iran to defend the use of chemical weapons. Let's face it, it was Russia that's involved in precision bombing of hospitals and humanitarian convoys, but again, the Obama administration, the world did nothing other than talk about serious consequences. Well, this president actually produced some real consequences. A very measured, very directed approach to trying to deter further use of chemical weapons. I'm not sure where it goes from here, but from my standpoint, the Trump administration should lay out a strategy, should establish some goals, come to the American public, come to Congress for authorization if he decides to do something more robust as it relates to the Syrian regime.
A Democrat and a Republican agreeing on that. Senator Ron Johnson, Republican of Wisconsin, it's great of you to be here. Thank you.